They say genius is the ability to hold contradictory thoughts in the mind at the same time and not go mad. And that's what this is, love and hate. Hey guys, this is John with the Alpha Channel update for Tuesday, June 11th here in Los Angeles. And a couple things. Yesterday on Conan 20, I didn't give Barry Smith the credit for this panel, which I think I actually skipped past in an effort to not get a copyright strike. But he had changed how he was drawing Conan. Look at that second panel here with the thicker neck, the much broader face. He I guess, he got the message from corporate that Conan wasn't a twink and they needed to make him look buffer and bigger and older, which he definitely did. And this was Conan 20. Today we have Conan, I believe it's Conan 25, a UK copy. It was 60 cents in the UK as opposed to what would have been, I don't know, 20 cents back here with Conan 20. And I read this today. Conan doesn't make a lot of choices in this one. Barry Smith is gone again, and now it's a different writer too. I'll look at his name in a second. But it's Gil Kane and Ernie Chan on the inks. So yeah, Gil Kane did the layouts, Ernie Chan did the inks, and Bruce Jones wrote the story. And story hadn't been as tightly knitted. The rules of it weren't as tightly written as they are today. Today's story is story can be paint by numbers today if you're working corporate, because they know exactly what all the beats should be and when they should fall and in which acts. And I've read a lot of how to write books, and a lot of them agree on very specific things, like the main character has to be the one who drives the story. And by drives the story, they mean makes the really important decisions. In some cases, they say the main character should make literally all the decisions, and that it's their story. And the shorter the story is, the more important that is. In this story, Conan is manipulated. Conan's manipulated a lot. It's interesting that his dad tells him that the riddle of steel is what's most important, because Conan's number one flaw in all his stories is trusting untrustworthy people. But he himself is relatively untrustworthy, so, you trust a thief as long as they're outside of arm's reach, As long as he can't stab you in the back, you can trust him. But that is part of why he gets into such crazy adventures, and why knowing him is you don't last you got a kind of a death sentence if you're going to hang out with Conan, because he's constantly getting into trouble. And so in this story, Conan is hired by some villagers to track down and catch this outlaw who murdered the village's favorite son. The outlaw turns out to be a female, and the kid was in love with her, and they were going to elope. And Conan is lied. So he was lied to by the villagers about it being an outlaw. It wasn't really an outlaw. And then he's lied to by... There's just so many lies in this book. So he brings this girl back and turns her over. This whole page, this 2 pages, is Conan pondering a decision that could have been made in one panel. So this book is just not extremely, and all of this stuff could have been 4 pages. And then he could have, those last 2 pages were just Conan changing his mind about turning this girl over to these villagers who are likely going to execute her. So he could have taken a lot more time with the villagers and drama about turning her over. All of this could be drama of him releasing her to them. And then the last panel could be him changing his mind. It's basically the good, the bad, and the ugly, where Blondie turns into Go for the bounty and then shoots the rope out. It's kind of like that. So it's not original in that sense. But here's where it gets a little crazy. So Conan in this bit gets bit by a snake, and so does his horse. And in this next bit, he comes back to the village where they have the girl. They're going to stone her by pushing a massive boulder off a pillar. and it would crush her. But everything's frozen except for Conan and his horse. They're the only two things that can ride around. It's called A Hitch in Time. This story is called A Hitch in Time. So I knew it was going to be magic. There's lots of magic in the Conan stories, but Conan abhors magic. Conan would not have used steroids. So here we meet the wizard, who is actually the girl's father, and he's the one who's frozen time. He's the real problem, and he hires Conan to rescue his daughter. Actually, he tells Conan that he only has until the sand in the hourglass runs out to rescue her before time goes back to normal, and then the venom that he's been poisoned with from the snake will continue to poison and kill him. And that if he rescues his daughter, that his wizard has an antidote and he will share it with Conan and cure him. And so, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Now here's the interesting part that relates to all my fiction stuff. Conan, despite being strong, has to use his brains. I'm going to skip this page because it doesn't show what happens. This book is really long and drawn out. He has to use brains to rescue the girl instead of brawn. So this rock that's hanging in midair, he sets up a bit where he's going to tie it to the stake that's pinning her to the ground. And then the moment the rock is released, he'll grab her and pull her out as the rock pulls the stake, freeing her foot, right? So, okay, it's kind of like Lois and Clark. Clark, it's interesting that Superman was just a tool in Lois and Clark. Dean Kane always had to solve everything with his brain, which is going to bring me to another thing about doing this at all, about doing comics and about doing fiction, about doing all this stuff. So Conan rescues the girl, returns her. He has to fight off the townspeople. The wizard escapes with his daughter, and Conan has to escape from the townspeople. And so when he gets back to the wizard, I'm not going to show the final page, I skipped a couple for copyright. But when he finally gets back to the wizard, naturally the wizard refuses to share the antidote with him because he's afraid that his daughter will fall for Conan just as she fell for the other dude. And so he's going to let Conan die. And in the middle, there's a bit where the wizard explains that in order to do the curse, he had to pray to this witch-headed goddess. I think I showed that page. And she is the one who gave him the power to do all this. And then, I know I skipped a couple pages, so I'll show the end. Because what happens is, the wizard is a jerk. You don't see her in this one. Let me show where she's at. Because she's worth seeing. She's only in like one panel. It's kind of absurd. This whole book is absurd. It's the only way to describe it, is absurd. Yeah, here she is, down here. This is the witch, the snake witch, queen, whatever, that he prays to, the snake goddess that he prays to, the wizard prays to. She's here on the cover. Conan doesn't ever fight her. He just gets bit by her poison. So this is a fake cover and a gay, dumb book. Bad writing. More adequate art by Gil Kane. I like the way Conan looks, and I don't know how much of that is Ernie Chan versus Gil Kane. Gil Kane didn't do anywhere near as much work in the inking as what I'm seeing Ernie Chan do here. And I think it's still Sal Buscema on the letters, not that it matters. It's a terrible story. Terrible story. Because what happens in the end is the snake goddess comes in and curses the wizard, and she kills him and then lets Conan live. Deus Ex Machina is what they call this. So that's that comic. And for those of you who are just here for the comics, great. I know that with the thumbnails that I've been doing lately, this may be a little bit, you may feel this is a little bit of false advertising. But I promise you it's not. I am here promoting my brand, Alpha Channel. Why am I doing a brand? Why am I doing comics? Why am I doing fiction? That's what we're going to talk about in just a minute. But first, I want to promote something else before I get into the negativity of the culture war. I do want to show off the Wildwood Tarot. And I really like this. This deck is amazing. It's really pretty incredible. Wildwood Tarot, the Page of Arrows, the Wren. And this is actually really good. I'm glad I did this first because it is going to lead me into what I want to talk about for our whole sort of culture war phenomenon that's going on, which I don't know if it's present here, and I don't know why they took Barry Smith off the book again. Maybe they gave him something else. I think X-Men was his first book. Maybe he was burnt out and he needed a break. It's possible. I don't want to impute bad anything to the other artists who took over for him, like I did the other day. But this is something I want to talk about. It's the second season problem, or the third album problem, and what happens when inspiration runs out and you're just left with perspiration as an artist and you have to make your deadlines. I can tell you what a lot of people do, and I can tell you what they used to do. And I just discovered this today as I was thinking about it. What they used to do is they used to draw from nature. When artists and writers and myth makers and the makers of the culture, when they wanted to teach a lesson to the young, they would draw from nature. But that's not what's going on now, and I'll tell you why. What's happening now is you get something like Conan that's really a ton of inspiration in the beginning with Barry Smith and doing probably some of the best work of his career. I don't think anyone would argue with that this is easily some of the best work of his career. I read Archer and Armstrong, and that was a big old fat dude in a twink, and that was not inspired. That was not Conan. That was not this. That was not this. And so this, culturally, what this does, when they run out of inspiration, they draw from nature. But you know what our enemies do? Our cultural enemies fall back onto agenda. As a matter of fact, they run to agenda and they insert agenda anywhere they find inspiration and that they can buy it and buy the creative, passionate force behind it. You see lots of, this is a culture war, this is an ethical and ethnic culture war being perpetrated against the people who dominated Western culture, which is white civilization, English, Irish, French, German, Spanish. I include Spanish in Western civilization. It's hard to include South America. They don't behave in an always very civilized manner. And really, we're being dominated by one group doing this Jacob versus Esau bit that falls back onto agenda. And most of the content that people consume these days is programming, is agenda-driven programming. And that's why it sucks. And that's why no one wants it. And that's why they have to bundle stuff. And then, you can see it in the advertising. It's obvious what's going on. It's very hard to deny the culture war at this point. And so what am I doing out here? If I'm not selling this, and I'm not asking you to give me money, and I'm not telling you how to be more successful, what am I doing? I'm not telling you how to be more successful. What I am doing is telling you success won't make you happy. It never has, it never will. There's a lot of successful people out there who are miserable fucks, and no one wants to hang out with them. And you all know it. You all know it. No one wants to be around them. All they ever talk about is money and what their next big investment is and what their next big scheme is that they want to get you involved in. Oh, hey, for $5,000, come and sit in this room with 40 other people and listen to me talk for 40 minutes about business. It's bullshit. It's nonsense. Happiness is found in doing great art. And it's found in, loving your family. I'm not saying that successful people can't be happy, but for the most part, they're not fun to be around. But artistic people generally have something to offer. They're not trying to compete with you. They're competing with themselves. I've said this before, and I think it's very controversial, but it might just be, trolling. Artists are the only people who really make anything worth buying. Everything, all the necessities, who cares? The art is what sells it. The art in the advertising, the art in the packaging, the art in the actual product itself. Art itself sells, which really kind of defies all business logic, but inspiration matters. I was listening to Dr. Ian McGilchrist today, and he did a really lot of great work. One of his big books is called Master and His Emissary, and it's about the left and right brain and about how the left brain works for the right brain, because the left brain interacts with the world using logic, and numbers and black and white, whereas the right brain interacts with the world using symbols and color and emotion. And it's really fascinating because it's kind of what you come up against in the world, in yourself and in the rest of the world. And that's where agenda decides to take over for inspiration. When you don't have inspiration in your life, the left side rules anger, rules war, and believe me, I'm well engaged with the left side. I want to show my art while I'm having this little conversation because last couple days I have really struggled, but the left side, the war side, kept my ass in the chair, and I produced some good stuff. And this is inspiration from nature. I had to take a step back from the skateboards and bicycles and the children, although there's a lot of that in here, and do this bit with the bow and arrow, and do these guys on horses. And these are just silhouettes, shapes. I'm working on using really light penciling. And, oh, there's one here I really want to show you guys. This is cool. I was working on the hand-painted hand grenades, and can you even see this? Can you see how light this is? That is a mushroom cloud, but the pencils are so light. I'm so happy with this. I woke up and looked at this again today, and I can barely see it, but I can see it. I can make it out, and that means I can ink it, and that means I can erase it really easily. It doesn't have all these big, heavy strokes where I was trying to get something right instead of trying to make something dark, which is different. And so this is all left side. This is all left side. This is the right side being harnessed by the left. And so this is a little bit of shading I did on this one the other day. And this is the composition I was really struggling with for a couple days. Saturday and Sunday, or Sunday and Monday, or Saturday and Sunday and Monday, I think. Mostly Sunday and Monday. But, oh, and check this out. I did this, I heard Ethan Van Sciver and the guys talking about how they used to compete to do small drawings that you can fit in a panel but still recognize a character in their costume. And so I gave that a shot, and here's a little 2-inch girl with her dogs, and 1 inch is really kind of the goal. But, you know, she's going to be a character in the comic. There's going to be lots of dogs and pets in the comic. I solved my composition last night too, which I'm really happy about. This took a lot of work, but it's at the correct angle, and I added a little sister for the brother. So this is the mom and the dog. The dog's leash is being held back by the mom's foot, who's also holding back her son from the shoulder. And this is the little daughter that I added, and the goldfish is coming up out of the bowl. And I'm gonna get to make a Hosuki wave right here, like I have on my arm, the tattoo. It's a big tattoo, but so anyhow, it's like little tributes like that. Like, this is so much fun, and the price of a pencil. So money does not, and success is the price of a pencil and paper. You don't need money to make money, and having money won't make you happy. I promise you it won't. I've had money. I've had lots of money and been very busy, and I still have some. It doesn't make you happy. I promise you it won't. The only things that'll make you happy are being healthy, doing something fun, challenging yourself physically, and challenging yourself artistically. So what I am here to sell you is the art of art. I'm here to sell you that that's where you find your happiness. Find your art. Find any art. Challenge yourself. Skateboarding is an art. Swordsmanship is an art. Skateboarding you can do alone. This you need to practice with people. Jiu-jitsu you need to practice with people. When I was in Kung Fu, that really more than anything taught me that the journey is the destination. I loved that class so much. But there were egos there. There was a lot of ego present. A lot of people looking for their place in the world and weren't satisfied by being a student in one of the best Kung Fu schools in the world. Hands down it was. I promise you it was, because of the lineage. And because I've been to a lot of martial arts schools, and that one was probably the happiest one I was in, but it was crushed under its own weight, under its own passions and inspirations. And it doesn't exist anymore, or if it does, it's completely private. And you can't just go and ask to join. And that's what's coming. That's what this culture war is bringing. Private fraternal organizations, invite only. Alpha Channel Games is invite only. You can go there and submit your invitation and I'll put you on the mailing list. And right now it's open to everyone. But eventually, you won't be able to buy it. You'll have to be invited. That's the future. The future is secret organizations because you guys destroyed civilization. And the way you destroyed it was out of liberty and love, a love of liberty. But all you brought was famine and pestilence. And discipline and labor you see as war and death. And so that's what's coming for you is discipline and labor because you refuse to do it. And if you find, look, I did my shoulders already today. So you gotta, this is all I want to say. Don't go to agenda when doing art. Go to nature for inspiration. If you're struggling for inspiration, go to nature. It's really easy. It's what our ancestors did. And if you don't have an art, find one. Whether it's singing, making music, drawing, painting, running, make fitness an art. Physical fitness you should have 3 arts. You should have physical fitness as an art, whatever sport it is you do, skateboarding, lifting weights, I don't care. But you should definitely have another art that is something creative that you do yourself, and a third art that you do in community, that you do with other people. That used to be kind of religion, culture. I don't know what it is for most people now. I mean, communal sports, I guess. It's going to be fraternal organizations. Clubs, find a group. Find people to show your art off with and to learn from. They're on the internet. The internet has given you this for free. The internet is the tyrant's single biggest mistake. And I'm spacing on the guy's name, the hyphenated Bjorn Hansen Lee, I think, who created the internet. That guy who gave it to all of us for free, man. Just the little things, all these. So the one inch characters from EVS and those guys, he said that they used to compete to do that. Light hand, figuring out the next thing I'm going to master. So this I hadn't really thought about, but it's obvious. Make the line thin and go from dark to light, but still thin and straight. And that should be elementary. But I went to animation school and never learned that. I'm finding in my pursuit of rendering, I'm finding all the gaps in my education, and there's a lot of them. And maybe it's my fault. Maybe it was the school was too condensed, too compact, But yeah, it's a lot of it. A lot of teachers just say, go do it. And they don't actually say, you're doing this. Or if you're doing it without knowing it, or I don't know. There's a lot of things I need to learn. I focused on writing and learned all about writing and plot development and character development, and now I'm doing the same thing for lighting and shading, and it's a lot of fun. So find your art, whatever it is. It'll make you happy. It'll get you through all the drama and all the Twitter feeds. I'm going to start flooding my Twitter feed with race-baiting news articles from justicereport.news, because they're the only people who report on black on white murder, which there's a ton of. There's no white on black rapes or murder. There's none. The amount of black on white murder is insane, and it's directly because of Jewish propaganda. And I'm committed to destroying your world. And here's the biggest thing that I wanted to say that I'm discovering. The left and the right hemisphere both want to manifest separate realities. And that is fascinating to me. The right hemisphere, I'm reading The Robe right now, and I just got to the one of the last chapters where Marcellus takes work on a melon farm, and the best melons in the world. But the laborers are miserable, and the overseers are miserable, and the guy who owns the farm is miserable. I guess in ancient Rome, our Pinot melons it was such a lush, fertile valley that they really grew the best melons in the world. And Marcellus was walking through there after he escaped the emperor was going to have him executed, and he totally like Conan. If I could illustrate the robe as a comic book, it is Conan affected by Jesus, and it's fucking awesome. So when he escapes, the emperor's going to have him executed, and he dives off of a ship about a mile out to sea and swims to the coast. And he's walking through these villages. He figures out where he is, and he decides he's got a ton of gold that his father gave him wrapped up, but he can't. He's on his own. He's now in exile from the nation. So what is he going to do? He's a Roman citizen who can't really say he's a Roman citizen. He's not a slave. He's basically Conan. He's just a hobo, and he hasn't murdered anyone. Conan's a murder hobo. So Marcellus is walking through this valley, and he decides there's a melon farm, and he decides to take a day's labor on the farm. And it's already afternoon, and the guy tells him he'll pay him 2 sesterces to work. And he's like, well, whatever you think it's worth. There's only half a day left, and I've never done this before, so I don't know that I'm going to be very good at it. Even though he's fit, he doesn't go in talking smack. He's humble. And the guy's like, well, all right. And he goes, wait, can you read and write? And he's like, yeah. And you can speak such and such? Yeah. He's like, go up to the house. They'll pay you 10 sesterces a day if you'll do the accounts. He's like, yeah, but I want to work in the field. And he's like, yeah, but why? I don't know, blah, 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 blah. And so he goes up there and he gets in a fight with the owner who kicks him out. And he goes back and he works in the field for half the day. And then the owner decides that he wants him back. And what Marcellus says to the owner is just awesome. I kind of want to pull it out and read it to you. But should I? I'm already making this a little bit too long. Maybe we'll tomorrow. I don't even know where it is right now because I'm listening to it on the audiobook, and I think my copy's in the other room. But Marcellus just says the best shit to this guy. It's like, well, you bully people because they can't say no to you. And this guy doesn't know what to do with them, So it's just, that would make an awesome comic. The inspiration there is perfect. The art is in the words. And it's in the feelings that the words evoke. And that is why this comic is great and this comic is shit. Because of the feelings that the art and the words evoke. And if what you're doing is propaganda, agenda-driven propaganda, the feelings you're going to inspire are shit. And you know it because it feels like shit when you're doing it. It feels angry, it feels hostile, it feels like what I feel like expressing this to you. What I wanted to talk about was the 2 sides of the brain have 2 different manifestation destinies, and they're competing with each other all the time, at least in me. One side absolutely wants nuclear war and a whole racial holy war and just world without rule of law, and all of you get your comeuppance and 90% of you are dead before we even start rebuilding. The other side of me says, nah, let it play out, let everyone do their art. You don't have to do anything. Just stay in shape, stay fit, stay healthy. Let God handle the world, right? If there is a God. The right side believes in God. The left side says you're absolutely fucking crazy. There is no God. So everyone has to balance this. Genius, they say genius is the ability to hold contradictory thoughts in the mind at the same time and not go mad. And that's what this is, love and hate. War and death are both when a war is creative, death is black and white, right? You can fight a war and win without killing anyone. It's been done. A lot of wars have been won without firing a shot. How far do you need to go? Blah, 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 blah. Right now, we're in a case where someone is committing war against us without firing a shot, and they're going to provoke us to fire shots, and we have to be creative about how we do it. So I'm going to be creative about destroying their world through ridicule and telling people about the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, and that Jews are the team who are destroying your world. Everyone else is allowed to have a team. Blacks are allowed to have a team. Mexicans are allowed to have a team. Guatemalans have a team. All Latinos have a team. Armenians have a team. Indians have a team. But white guys, you're not allowed to have a team. I don't know, but white guys need to team up, and you need to get artistic about it. You need to find your art, and you need to find a way to make fun of Jews creatively and without hurt their feelings, but they're committing genocide against you. That's what all their propaganda is. That's what all their anti-white, Jew-driven propaganda is. And you need to do something. Do something artistic. Do something fun. Don't drink Bud Light.